In this segment, I like to bring you those who distort Christianity by providing kind of leftist influence on scripture and Christian thought. I give you things like the sparkle mass and glitter communion that progressive Christians have been on a nonstop tour de force of insane heresy with lately. It's a lot of fun to watch them kind of torch themselves and twist themselves and contort themselves into some rather awkward positions in order to maintain their cultural relevancy. However, today I have a contemporary but honestly rather old idea that has preoccupied the mind of the anti-Christian community out there for a while. With that in mind, it may not surprise you that I happen to think that we've been mostly lied to about the Christian Crusades. I'll be the first to admit that war can be horrific and often comes along with a litany of atrocities that Jesus didn't really put on his top 10 list. I'll also quickly admit that war is a necessary evil and that the Bible endorses it when the cause is just and the goal is clear. For those who would rather not see a concentration camp in every community, you'll probably quickly admit that America's invasion of Germany was probably a good thing. However, if there's one fact about Christianity that many postmodern secularists think they know, it is that Christians murder Muslims, and in the Crusades, they were evil, and if we ever let Christians get into power, they'll do it again. So it's the number one argument about, against Christianity from many people. Well, that and somebody hurt my feelings at church one time. So the unfortunate reality is the vast majority of our pop culture saturated society knows more about Taylor Swift than they do about the Crusades, and they know even less about the faith. And unfortunately, that influences what they think about it. It should come as little surprise that the vast majority of people teaching you in your stellar public school had no idea what they were talking about when it comes to the Crusades. And please save your typing in the comment section for those of you who went a little bit deeper in your education and you attended a community college with an atheist professor who really took you down the rabbit hole. So save that. But I understand I'm stepping on some hollowed ground here when I suggest to you that the Crusades were more about Christians defending themselves against a jihad-obsessed religion than the other way around. After all, you've read The God Delusion and you've seen City of God with the disgusting, intolerant Christians living in their own filth, how they attacked enlightened Muslims who were contemplating the mysteries of the world and living peacefully while on their way to discovering the cure for cancer. Of course, we know those pasty whites and their tendency to enslave. But to maintain your very binary belief in the Crusades, you have to push aside some inconvenient facts. For instance, you have to forget that the First Crusade was a defensive war. Muslims had been on a mission of expansion since Muhammad and had taken 2/3 of the known world, and many of that territory was Christian-owned. And those acts of aggression didn't stop when the Crusades began. Researcher Dr. Bill Warner estimates that about 548 aggressive battles were waged by Muslims against Christians, compared to 15 aggressive battles fought by Christians to do the same. But you don't have to listen to me or even secondary sources. Here's what Pope Urban II said on the eve of the First Crusade in order to call Christians to take up arms in the First Crusade. He said this: "You have seen for a long time the great disorder in the world caused by these crimes. It is so bad in some of your provinces, I am told, that you are so weak in the administration of justice that one can hardly go along the road by day or night without being attacked by robbers. And whether at home or abroad, one is in danger of being despoiled either by force or fraud. Although, O sons of God, you have promised more firmly than ever to keep the peace among yourselves and to preserve the rights of the church, there remains still an important work for you to do. Freshly quickened by the divine correction, you must apply the strength of your righteousness to another matter which concerns you as well as God. For your brethren who live in the East are in urgent need of your help, and you must hasten to give them the aid which has often been promised them. For as the most of you have heard, the Turks and Arabs have attacked them and have conquered the territory of Romania as far west as the shore of the Mediterranean and to the Hellespont, which is called the Arm of St. George. They have occupied more and more of the lands of those Christians and have overcome them in 7 battles. They have killed and captured many and have destroyed the churches and devastated the empire." By the way, you should know this, that the Muslims captured more Europeans and put them in the slave trade than did Europeans place blacks in the transatlantic slave trade and brought them to North America. So some 1.2 million Europeans were enslaved by the Muslims, and about 400,000 Africans were brought from Africa to North America. So in short, the Crusades were waged by Christians as a defensive war to stop Muslim expansion, aggression, and atrocities. You may say, well, of course the Christian is going to say this when Pope Urban stood up and say it. You know, he's going to make the Muslims seem like the bad guys. But believe what you want and believe as many lies as you like. But don't let it disarm you of common sense. Disregard any of these sources and let's just use some logic here for a moment. What's easier to believe? A jihad-obsessed religion made the world difficult to live in, or damned bloodthirsty Christians wanted to decapitate innocent Muslims who were innocently praying toward Mecca. This is not to disregard that there were bad people on both sides. I'm sure there were many crusaders who did grossly immoral things. It's just that when Muslims did it, they were doing it in keeping with their prophet's call. And when crusaders did it, they were clearly disobeying Christian scripture. But the biggest and most important argument in favor of the Crusades is simply this: Western civilization. All you have to do is simply ask yourself a very logical question. Which would you rather have today? The Islamic world spread around the world as the major cultural zeitgeist, or Western civilization as it is presently situated? For those who struggle with apples and oranges, let me just be really clear with you. I'm not saying that there aren't pros and cons to both. My simple argument is that it is objectively clear which one is better. And by the way, if you're on the left and you love calling people Islamophobes for making those kind of arguments, what do you think the world would look like under Sharia law? And how many women would truly have the rights that they do in America today if Muslims had taken over the known world? If you care about the rights of women and the LGBTQ community, I think you better jump at the chance to defend Western civilization. But I have little hope of that. I understand that people, when confronted with inconvenient truths, often retreat to their illogical assumptions to reinforce their narrative. But maybe, just maybe, there's someone out there who is willing to admit that it's very easy to paper over history in order to cover your religious bigotry. And if you're brave enough to admit that, you'll find yourself on some pretty holy ground. It's rare that people find their way outside of their flimsy echo chambers and flimsy worldviews. Flimsy worldviews are really comfortable. They allow you to live in a way that you like without fear of change, and they're a powerful stronghold against facts and logic. But if you let the wolf blow your little house down and your sticks come tumbling down around you, you can find something more solid where you'll find independent thinking, healthy skepticism, and a gradual but life-changing worldview. So I highly encourage you to exit the matrix that's been programmed for you. It's there too, where you may take the next step in realizing Christianity is hardly what you thought it was. In other words, you'll stop living by lies and you'll find the power of truth. And I hope you do that. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, I hope you go with God. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.